No cost of living increase for this fourth year running. Why was this not a priority?
Well, it's not a question of it not being a priority. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening, but let's try and put things in their proper context. You talk about 4 years. In those 4 years, in 2 years, the inflation rate was 0. So there was nothing to give in terms of cost of living. And as a result, what we're dealing with is the first year post-Brexit when the economy wasn't working. We're dealing with the first year where the economy really is working. The public finances are starting to come back. And of course, the remuneration of members of staff in the public sector is a priority. That's why I've spent hours with members of Unite, the GGCA and NASUWT, working out how we could give something to help those in the public sector with the cost of living issues that they're facing in a way that didn't create a problem for recurrent expenditure. So far from not being a priority, something which I think is not a fair way of describing the way that the government has worked on the issue of the lump sum that we're going to provide to, in particular, those earning under £100,000, broken down within some grades. It has been one of the key priorities. It's probably the thing I've worked on most in respect of this budget, and indeed the one thing I've worked on the most in every budget in the past 12 years.
We'll stick with Unite now. Unite, the union, did make several suggestions as to how a cost of living increase could have been paid for without borrowing. They suggested progressive changes to the tax code, charging higher earners more, windfall tax, increasing corporation tax. Were these considerations of yours, or did you not
Of
think
course,
they were viable?
I considered them. They put them to me, and the other unions also put options to me, and I considered them all. We had a very good engagement. Actually, we had a lot of meetings. They've been very collegiate meetings. We worked very well together. We've analysed all of the issues. But some of the things that Unite were talking about started to change the character and nature of the tax system that we have in Gibraltar and of the way that the Gibraltar economy worked. And at this stage, I'm not prepared to risk that the Gibraltar economy should change the way it functions in any manner that might upset the apple cart when we're finally getting the apple cart back on track.
We'll stick with you now. We have seen a circular that's been sent around to the membership. Is this a one-year lump sum, or is there any plan for this to be repeated?
No, there is a very clear position on the part of the government that this is being paid just this year, but that when we look at next year, it would be unfair to start from a baseline which doesn't include consideration of the amount that is being paid this year. So therefore, my intention, if I'm returned as Chief Minister after the next general election, if I'm Minister for Finance at the next budget in Gibraltar, is that I will be starting from the baseline of including the amounts that we have paid as a result of this budget in the calculation of how we move forward from there for next year. And I would hope that by then we have seen a surplus materialize in reality for the next budget, and we'll be estimating another, hopefully bigger surplus. Then the economy will be completely back on track, the public finances will be back on track, and we will be able to restart the process which we've had in all of the years that we have been in government until the pandemic hit, where we have been providing pay rises to those in the public sector, and in that way also helping the private sector to come along, also by raising the minimum wages we have every year.
So nothing confirmed is a potential, but we have to wait and see what the
Well, it would be,
lands.
if I did confirm it to you, you would accuse me of huge arrogance because I would be dictating next year's budget to whoever might be the Chief Minister who might not be of my party. So I've said, I started my budget speech by saying I take nothing for granted, certainly not the support of the people of Gibraltar that I work very hard to earn every day. There is a general election between now and the next budget. I've told you my position. It'll be the position of my party. It's been set out very clearly by me to unite the GGCA and ASUWT, and it will be my position if I am returned after the next general election, but I can't take that for granted.
Right, well, there have been some strongly worded exchanges in the House. The lump sum payments will be arriving in September, just before the general election.
How do you know that?
Autumn. Some, including your political opponents, have equated this to buying votes.
Well, that's a bit of a joke, isn't it, really? Because they also say that I haven't done enough to pay the amount that I should be paying more. They say that I'm not paying more because I've mismanaged the public finances. People have been asking me to do this last year. I said we couldn't last year for reasons I explained in the budget. I've been working with the three unions diligently throughout the year to do something in this year's budget. This year's budget is now. An election is due in the autumn. These things are paid at the end of a quarter when they are lump sums. So just logically following the steps leads you to the payment in that period. There's absolutely no attempt to do this to buy votes. I would never want to buy a vote. I don't want people to vote for me because they receive this lump sum. People should feel free to receive the lump sum because we have worked out we can pay for it, because we want to help them with the cost of living, and then vote for whoever they think is best for Gibraltar. I've never asked anybody to vote for anybody other than the person they think is going to represent the best for Gibraltar. What I've said during the course of the budget debate in that respect is I think I've demonstrated in 12 years with my government team that every step we take to keep Gibraltar safe. We are the option that's kept Gibraltar safe, and we are the option that will keep Gibraltar safe. So look at that when you're deciding who to vote for, not at whether we're paying you a lump sum or not. That's because of what happened last year and this year, and not about what's going to happen next year.
Okay, we'll focus on what I think is widely welcome news, the recruitment of AA positions.
Well, look, there are vacancies at the bottom in the government. We were not able to make the announcement earlier, although I said on Direct Democracy that we were going to go ahead with the recruitment. I knew that we couldn't start the process because there was a pay review due in the United Kingdom. We knew that pay review could have effect on the parity agreement, which the Gibraltar government and the union signed in the 1970s and continues to be an agreement that we give effect to, a little bit like the Treaty of Utrecht. It may be old, but it still matters. And that parity agreement really matters to the government. So we knew that was coming. We had to do the calculations on the entry grade. Once we did that calculation, we were able to issue the advert with the new calculation. That calculation has been announced publicly today, and the advert appears tomorrow.
And finally, Chief Minister, are you pleased with the budget? Was there anything that you couldn't quite achieve or get over the line?
Well, look, I tell you, this has been a very difficult budget. It's been the culmination of 12 years in office. It's a very difficult process, the budgeting process. It's taken very seriously. Some of the things the Leader of the Opposition has said, I think, are very unfair. Not on me, they're unfair on the people who do the estimating, who are officials. They're not subject to political direction by me or by other ministers. They make the decisions on their own. They recommend the estimate. It's difficult to put together. It's very fairly done. It's a very good view of where we're going. I've shown that the estimates have not been met just in the GEA and the Health Authority, which are the demand-led departments. So we've got it really, really down pat, but that doesn't mean it's easy. You know, I spent weeks working on this to deliver this budget today. I'll have to spend the rest of the week listening to the contributions from opposition members, which are hugely important in our democracy, and I will have to spend the weekend preparing to reply to them. It's a difficult process. I give all of myself to this process. I know other members of the Parliament do too, and people should appreciate that when we're dealing with public money, both sides of the House take great care to hone their arguments, to put their arguments to each other, and this is the culmination of the political year in Gibraltar. And, you know, 12 under the belt already. It's been hard, it's been quite a sacrifice, but it's been worth it.